Welcome, everybody, to Survive in Advance on the Grizzly Crew Sports Network. I'm your co-host for Survive in Advance, Mike Goodpaster. And right now, I would like to welcome in a man who really needs no introduction the world over, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, good morning.
Oh, hell. I know what's wrong. I forgot to say Steve is also a member of the Indiana Basketball Hall.
No. My beloved Colts took it on the chin, 6-0 against the hapless Jaguars. So, proving once again, my theory all along, the Colts never were a playoff team.
Well, you don't have to be a playoff team to make the playoffs in the AFC this year, I don't think, though.
Yeah, it's probably true. Yeah.
Next up, we've got from probably the finest fantasy football podcast there is, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Well, me and Steve seem to be doing better than you because we picked the games on Friday. And when I look at this, Anthony, you're in last.
Yeah, what did I end up with?
I don't know because I just wrote down our differences. Anthony picked Chicago. Me and Steve picked the Giants. I picked the Buccaneers. You and Steve picked the Panthers. Steve picked Miami, where me and you picked Buffalo. Anthony picked Baltimore. He got that. But then Anthony came in last because he picked Minnesota to beat New England. So me and Steve ended up tied for first. Anthony ended up last, and that's pretty much how this show's set up and designed to work anyways on Friday Football Frenzy.
Forget it, Anthony. You have no chance.
He did if he just wouldn't have picked the freaking Vikings to go to New England and beat the Patriots. Let's start off with this before we even get into the games. There's some big news in the NFL. Number one's Kareem Hunt. So my question to you is, should Kareem Hunt ever play in the NFL again, Steve?
You know, Mike, I think that everybody deserves a second chance. It's a tough call to make. I think he should be given the opportunity if he rehabs and does everything he needs to do. Death sentences are pretty brutal, although what he did was pretty brutal. But I think if he took a year off and got all the proper education he needs and does everything he needs to do, I think he should be given a second chance. Will he? I don't know, but I would be open to revisiting it down the road, but not in the near future.
All right, Anthony, do you agree with Steve?
Yeah, I do agree with him. Looking into the situation, at least what the Chiefs reported, they said that I guess a part of the reason why they moved on from him so quickly because he wasn't honest about it. I know probably in the NFL circles that's a big deal, and sometimes that's even blown out of proportion a little bit more than the actual action. But yeah, I think Kareem Hunt's gonna get another shot, and I saw that Ray Rice wants to try to help him out.
That's not the question, though. Should he give it another shot?
Yeah, I do believe in second chances.
Really? I don't.
Yes.
I don't. Not for this. I mean, he was also accused of punching a man in June. I mean, this is absolutely pathetic. I think it's pathetic that you guys think that he should get another chance. I mean, the dude is obviously a scumbag. He's a grown man now. And the Kansas City Chiefs, they didn't do the right thing. If they'd have done the right thing as soon as they found out about it, they'd have got rid of him, but they didn't.
Yeah, but, the Cleveland police dropped the ball. You could say the Cleveland police dropped the ball, too.
Well, you know what? This is the thing. In the end, the only people that really dropped the ball are the NFL who didn't investigate it. Just like they didn't investigate Ray Rice until a video came out. But the guy, in the end, who dropped the ball was Kareem Hunt because he's a scumbag. And I don't know why. If I'm an NFL owner and I'm paying these guys millions of dollars, I'd really like to have it so I could sign these guys and not have to worry about the phone ringing in the middle of the night about some asshole that kicks a woman, shoves her. I mean, this is a joke. And the sad thing is, it's because he's a football player that he can get away with it. I mean, they don't.
Mike, I don't think anybody said. I don't think nobody said he's getting away with it. I mean, I think
he's getting away with it.
Really, but the kid's 23 years old.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'm sorry, Steve. When you're 23, you're not a kid, and if you are, maybe you ought to get a babysitter. But he would punch her in the face too. And that's your dog agrees with me.
I
can hear your dog.
I'm not going to sit here and shed any and he disregarded the fact that he hit a woman and punched a woman and kicked a woman. That's unacceptable in any language. I just think that if they can rehab him and he can get rehab himself and can understand what being a man is about, then I think at 23, I think that there's an opportunity to grow and learn if he chooses to take that path. And if not, then he's done. I mean, Ray Rice never came back to the league. He never could get over the hump. So.
Ray Rice never came back to the league because he was averaging 3 yards a carry and he was old. That's the only reason he didn't come back. Right. And the other thing is this. The NFL dropped the ball because, why didn't the league interview Kareem Hunt after the alleged assault? They never even spoke to Kareem Hunt about
trying to figure out the NFL is like trying to figure out Rubik's Cube for me.
No,
I've never gotten two colors on the same page.
They just lie, they defer, and they cover their own asses until they can't. And when they can't, they do something about it.
It's amazing to me that the NFL's that stupid now, like people are that go and do stupid things. Everything in the world is videotaped now. There are surveillance cameras everywhere. And for the NFL to not assume that a videotape's not going to pop up in a hotel somewhere, that tape's not going to eventually come out, is just absolutely ridiculous, because I don't know that there's any corner in the world, the United States at least, is not videotaped right now or under some type of surveillance.
Well, the Josh Brown incident also. I mean, the NFL claimed that King County, Washington Sheriff's Office refused to provide information on Giants kicker Josh Brown's abuse of his wife, which is why they didn't do anything at the time. But the sheriff told a Seattle radio station, KIRO, that the league never formally requested the records, and that even if he couldn't release the records, he would have been helpful to an investigator who properly identified his or her affiliation, since it is the NFL. Yeah. So the NFL does nothing to pursue this.
Is this a case to where the NFL just doesn't want to? They only want to deal with what's being put out there.
Yeah, they only want to deal with
whatever
what they
can be
can't
covered
deny.
up.
Yeah,
let cover up.
Yeah, I mean the Ben Roethlisberger stuff. I mean, come on, the woman was paid off. Something happened, and this is the bigger one. Ezekiel Elliott. Let's go straight to the Dallas Cowboys. They went hard after Ezekiel Elliott for some reason on domestic violence allegations that I think were complete BS. He got suspended for 6 games. But I don't know why there wouldn't be a relentless investigation of this. Because Ezekiel Elliott, that woman said what she was out to do. He still got suspended for 6 games. But Kareem Hunt, who, allegedly, and from looking at the video, hit a woman and kicked a woman, they didn't relentlessly pursue this when it was the Kansas City Chiefs. But they did when it was Ezekiel Elliott, Anthony.
But that also wasn't the first Ezekiel Elliott issue. Ezekiel Elliott had a bunch of small issues since he's gotten into the league, and then this was the big one. Yeah, Kareem Hunt, aside from what he did after this first incident, he had a pretty clean slate.
But the Kansas City Chiefs also employed Tyreek Evans. Or
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, yeah. Who pleaded guilty in 2015 to punching and strangling his pregnant girlfriend.
Listen, if every team just banished everyone who did something wrong, we would have no NFL left.
That's fucking
It would
stupid.
be a bunch of practice squad.
Whatever. Okay, so you're telling me the majority of NFL players go around beating up their pregnant girlfriends. I mean, what you got is this.
Okay, what did they do? How much of this is on the NFL, and how much of this is how these players are raised and they get away with everything?
Well, see, this is the problem, though. In the NFL, then
school, college, it's all covered up.
Hey, yeah, and then the NFL continues to cover it up. So it's all on the NFL because you know what? You don't have to bring in guys that are questionable. You just don't. I mean, there's no reason to, because I guarantee you this, every one of these NFL teams investigates the hell out of the background for these players. And they know which guys are trouble and which guys aren't. Aaron Hernandez was nuts before he ever got to New England. Tyreek Hill is a scumbag. I don't care what he does from here on out. Because, to me, there's some things that are so heinous that you can't recover from them. And I'm sorry, when you punch and strangle your pregnant girlfriend, that's something you don't recover from, because you know what? It takes a special kind of asshole to do something like that. You know, and if he changes his life, good for him, but I'm never going to forget it because I think it's something that is disgusting. And,
to your point, he was probably a couple of seconds away from being Ray Caruth.
Yeah, he was. And Ray Caruth, I think he just got out of jail too. And the Ray Caruth thing was a joke. The Greg Hardy thing is a joke. The fact that a guy like Randy Gregory is in the NFL is a joke. Really, Joe Mixon even. I understand because I've seen everything. I've talked to law enforcement in Oklahoma that dealt with it. And there was a lot of things. But you know what? In the end, if you just walk away and be a man, this doesn't happen. The problem is our society today with teenagers into their early 20s is they think that walking away makes you less of a man. But in the end, the one thing my dad always told me is this: if you're past the age of 18 and you're getting in a physical confrontation, it better be to protect yourself or one of your loved ones. Because if it's not, you're just a fool. So, I don't know. I get sick of seeing this. And the Kansas City Chiefs, sure, they cut him almost right away, but they waited until the commissioner put him on the exempt list. Because if they wouldn't have, somebody could have signed him immediately, and maybe they would have lost a game because of it. So in the end, that tells me the most important thing to these teams is winning games, unless you're the Cincinnati Bengals. So, all right, are we done with Kareem Hunt?
Tried, convicted, and you're done with him. So whatever.
Well, are you done with on this one? I mean, you. I just don't understand. Would you want somebody like this on your team, Steve?
No, Mike, I wouldn't. And I go back saying this is a very touchy subject. In no way, shape, or form is this program. Do you personally condone any kind of violence toward anybody outside of what they do on the field of football that's legally contact? However, I think the NFL should always have a pathway of recovery and give the guy a chance to recover. And if he doesn't take the recovery, then he's out. But this country's founded on people getting second chances. And, to take this to this level, it's appropriate, but it's harsh too. So maybe it's justified. I'm not going to sit here and defend what he did. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a fine man. I'm just saying the NFL should invest in him now and give him an opportunity to recover, to educate himself, and see if they can make amends with the thing, and then expel him at that point in time. That's just my opinion, but it does not condone the atrocity that happened.
My take on it is
he's out. He's done playing right now. He's missing what could be a Super Bowl ring, and he's basically trashed his career. Now, if the NFL chooses to do so, but they don't even have a pathway in place for recovery. You're right. They hide it until it becomes unhideable, and then they just execute you.
Yeah, then they do what the public demands.
I think the NFL fails there.
Yeah, whatever public demands is what they do. Because it was hilarious.
Right. If they knew this stuff was going on, they should have pulled him out earlier and tried to get him on a pathway at that point in time. But they chose not to because they don't want the bad publicity, because they're still trying to deal with take a knee shit and all that kind of stuff. But I can't sit here and not argue with you vehemently, because in the end, you're right. He beat up a woman on videotape, and that's not acceptable in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the only way he should never be allowed back in the NFL is if he takes a knee during the national anthem, because that you can't recover from. If Colin Kaepernick would just beat the hell out of a woman, he'd have been back by now. Yeah.
Might be.
Well, I can pretty much vouch for it because the Cincinnati Bengals last week signed Tom Savage. All right, let's go to Mike McCarthy. I think that we all knew that Mike McCarthy was on his way out, Anthony. but I think that it does surprise everybody that he's gone right now. But he lost to the Cardinals.
Yeah, I thought that Mike McCarthy was for sure out of Green Bay at the end of the season. Nobody expected this. I don't think anybody, including Vegas, because the point spread was 14.5 points, expected the Green Bay Packers to lose at home to this Cardinals team, rookie quarterback, a struggling running game. I mean, it was just a disaster, and I think it was warranted. You bring in a guy like Joe Philbin. I know he didn't have success with the Miami Dolphins, but he knows the Packers. He's been there, and I think he can step in and win probably win a couple of games and create a little bit of a spark. I know Philbin's not going to be there long term, but the pieces were in place for McCarthy to go.
Yeah, and in 98 years, Mike McCarthy is the first Green Bay Packer coach to be fired halfway through the season, Steve. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I'm surprised they did it so swiftly. I mean, first of all, in terms of the loss to the Cardinals, the Packers aren't a very good football team right now. I mean, I think the spread that was thrown out by Vegas was ridiculous. The Packers are just not that good. Rodgers was up and down and all over the place.
He still looks hurt.
Pardon?
Rodgers still looks banged up. Something's off.
Yeah, well, yeah, he looks like he never recovered from the injury earlier in the year. He's in that Brett Favre phase where I told you, like I said all along, he's going to have magnificent games, and we're all going to live on die on those, but he's not going to consistently have great football games anymore. He's 35 years old. He just turned 35 yesterday. He's old, and he's banged up, and I don't think you're ever going to see Aaron Rodgers play like Aaron Rodgers played 5 years ago. I'm just shocked they did it right now. The Packers organization generally is a little bit more stoic than that and would wait till the end of the year, just ride it out and go. But, they've had enough. So I think he's the first domino of several that are going to fall here by the end of the season. I think some coaches are teams are really failing that we had much higher expectations for. McCarthy's the first one to go. It's a bold move by the Packers to do it right now. So you're right. In 98 years, you say it's the first time they've ever fired a coach mid-season?
Yeah, in 98 years. So
yeah, so that's precedent right there. That tells you how displeased they were with him. But yeah, I don't think the Packers are that good a football team.
So they're not, but the Cardinals are considered even worse. And this probably, if there was any doubt on Steve Wilks coming back or not, Anthony, this win in itself probably gives him another year.
Yeah, and how often are our head coaches blown out after a year, though? Wasn't he going to come back regardless?
It's happened a few times. I mean, Chip Kelly, it's probably happened 5 or 6 times in the last 5 or 6 years because these guys get a little over jumpy. And if Wilks didn't win another game and he was 2-14, only Cleveland can justify 2-14 and keeping your job, or Cincinnati with Marvin Lewis. Next up, I don't put a lot of the struggles of the Cardinals offense early on Wilks. Mike McCoy, I don't know how this guy keeps getting jobs. I don't think that you can put anything on Wilks because that roster was bad coming in. Rosen has played a little bit better, gives you a little bit of hope there. Talking about another team that's given people hope this year, the Chicago Bears. They traveled to New York, got beat by the Giants, 30-27 in overtime. Eli Manning, 19 for 35, 170 yards. Saquon Barkley, the best running back in football, even though nobody agrees with me on this show, 24 carries for 125 yards. My concern here is this. It will start with Anthony. Chase Daniel didn't play well, threw 2 picks. Jordan Howard ran for 76 yards. But the Bears' defense that is supposed to be so stellar gave up 30 points yesterday to a New York Giants team that's had a hard time scoring.
Well, the Giants, they have played better in the past couple of games. I know they struggled against the Eagles last week. But, yeah, this Bears defense, they definitely they were a big reason why the Bears lost. But, yeah, Chase Daniels did struggle. I think the Bears defense goes as that offense goes. And when Mitchell Trubisky's in there, you don't see all those mistakes, and there's more sustained drives, which keeps the defense off the field and turns them into an opportunistic defense with game flow. I think when you're putting the offense is putting the defense in a bad situation, they're going to be exploited.
Yeah.
Because Khalil Mack's a superstar, and they have a lot of just complimentary players.
I think Roquan Smith, the draft pick out of Georgia, I think he's a good player. But I don't think this is.
I mean, I'm not impressed.
This is not a defense that's just going to shut people down, and I don't think people realize that yet. I mean, they're a good defense. They're top half of the league defense, but I wouldn't put them in the top 3, 4, or even 5. I don't even think they get close to that. But
no, I agree there.
All right, next up, I've been wanting to talk about this game with Steve.
Hey, can I get one point? One point about the Giants. I read this on Twitter.
Yeah.
Previously, came out number of 40-yard touchdown passes thrown by Eli Manning 0. Number of 40-yard touchdown passes thrown by Odell Beckham Jr. 2.
That's wow.
Okay.
Beckham has 2 40-plus yard touchdown passes thrown for the Giants. Eli Manning has 0.
How about this? Number of Super Bowl rings.
I like Eli Manning.
Hey,
I just
number of Super Bowl rings before Odell Beckham, 2. Number after 0. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars, and probably the game of the year, absolute shootout. Beat the Indianapolis Colts 6-0. Cody Kessler was on fire at 18 for 24 for 150 yards. Carlos Hyde ran all over the Colts, 13 carries for 36 yards. The Colts, on the other hand, Andrew Luck threw a pick, 33 for 52 for 248. They couldn't get the running game going. Eric Ebron had a nice game, 10 receptions, 81 yards. Steve, what happened?
Man, I don't know. I mean, what a turnaround from a team that's averaging 30 points a game in the last 6 games. All of a sudden, can't put a point on the board. Again, I only get to see the game on Red Zone, so I'm not watching the entire football game to see what's going on. But it's just out of sync. I don't know if they were looking past this game to another game, thinking this was a cakewalk for them, or what. I mean, it's the first football they've had since the beginning of the season. But it was a devastating one for them.
Yeah, it's devastating. And when you look at the rest of their schedule, they're at the Texans. I don't think the Texans are going to win that game, or I don't think the Colts are going to win that game.
No.
They host the Cowboys. You got a chance
that's
there.
That's a tough game now. That's all of a sudden the game we were
host
counting
the
on winning.
Giants.
I don't know.
You go to the Titans. There's no game there out of the 4 that's an easy game. I mean, I could see them losing all 4.
Yeah.
And I think the best you could see them probably doing is 2-2. So I think they're dead in the water.
They're dead in the water. Yeah. But I said all along. I know, and I've never thought the Colts were really a true playoff contending team.
I've never thought they were a playoff team, but I thought they had a chance to make it because the schedule was
make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
But they weren't really a playoff team, so it just sets that door. As far as I'm concerned, it closes that door, and we can just focus on the $118 million we have in salary cap money, and start looking at players to add where we need to add players, and start looking at the draft, and keep everybody healthy, keep Luck healthy right now, and hang on to our receivers that we have, and maybe pick up another one. But that was a deal maker for the Colts yesterday. They just, from what I saw on Red Zone, they were as inept as they did back in the early 90s.
Did they ever make it on Red Zone?
Yeah, actually they did in the last drive. I mean, they showed the whole last drive because basically all they need to do is score 1 touchdown, and they actually get it down to a situation where we got Luck, and you're 25 yards out, I think, with about 12 seconds to go, and they get a bad call. The guy gets out of bounds. It looks like he got out of bounds. The referee calls him inbounds, and it runs the clock out. But at that point in time, I don't know why Luck isn't throwing in the end zone anyway. Why he's trying to throw an out pass to the 12-yard line at that with 12 seconds to go. You got 2 shots to get in the end zone. Throw it in the end zone. I don't understand that call either. There's been some questionable calls but I can't blame it on Frank Reich. He's overachieved with this football team. Colts will be a better team next year. I still don't know if they'll be as good as Houston, but they'll be a better team. They got a lot of money to spend. Hopefully they'll spend it wisely.
All right.
And go on. But there's no more to talk about the Colts. They're yesterday's news.
You brought up the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans started the season 0-3. Now they're, I think, 9-3. Right now,
9-game winning streak.
I'm thinking when you include teams that could be Super Bowl contenders, Anthony, I think it's getting to the point because Deshaun Watson earlier in the year, even when they were winning, he'd be 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Now, though, he's not turning the ball over. Lamar Miller is running for 100 yards. Alfred Blue, 50. They're probably combining for 150 yards a game. DeAndre Hopkins may be the best receiver in football. If he's not the best, he's in the top 5 right now. I think the Texans are a legit contender now, Anthony.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. This Texans team, they look really good, and I think they started on this win streak when they beat Dallas earlier in the year, actually. And
give
Deshaun
the Cowboys
Watson,
credit
he's
for
really,
the Texans.
he hasn't turned the ball over in 2 games. He hasn't really done that a lot. 21 throwing touchdowns, 9 interceptions, only lost 2 fumbles this season. You said it on Lamar Miller, DeAndre Hopkins. I can't think of another wide receiver who can do it all and who does it almost every week. I think this Texan team is dangerous, and we're overlooking this defense. They made a ton of plays yesterday.
Yeah, they always
their
do.
Defense is just as good as this offense.
When you look at them, they gave up 17 to the Titans, 21 to the Redskins, 17 to the Broncos, 7 to the Jaguars, 23 to the Dolphins. So really, this year, they've only given up more than 20 points a few times. And when you do that in the NFL, you're going to win. And when you look at the rest of the schedule, Steve, they host the Colts, they go to the Jets, they go to the Eagles, they host the Jaguars. This team could be 13-3 and sitting as a number 1 or a number 2 seed when this is all said and done.
Agreed. Yeah. I think 12-4 is a target number. 13-3 is an optimistic number. I really only see the game that's throwing them much, Loop, is the Eagles. And only because they're playing in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia's going to be fighting for their playoff lives. But other than that, I
think Philadelphia's life may be over.
Might be done by then. Maybe over by then. You're right.
If they win tonight, they still got a heartbeat. If they lose tonight, they're dead.
They're done. They're dead. They're dead in the water like the Colts. So, I like Houston a lot. I think they're gelling at the perfect time. They're getting better each week. They picked Mayfield 3 times. So to Anthony's point about they made a lot of great defensive plays. Mayfield has a gret day. 29 of 43 for 400 yards basically, but gets picked 3 times. So I'm really liking San Diego, and I'm really liking Houston right now in the AFC. And of course, you've always got the ugly monster sitting out there on the East Coast that you got to play through. But Houston's doing well.
All right. Next up, we've got the Carolina Panthers. And much like the Bengals, a month ago everybody thought they might be able to do something. But not so much anymore, as Cam Newton threw 4 interceptions. And I would like to bring up the fact that I was complimenting him early in the season. Now he's just what he always was. He was 28 for 41, 2 touchdowns, 4 picks. Christian McCaffrey did all he could for this team to win. 10 carries, 106 yards. But 4 interceptions is a killer, Anthony. And when you're doing this against Tampa Bay, a team with not a very good defense, and Jameis Winston's outplaying you, I think your season's probably just about to wrap up.
Yeah, as good as Christian McCaffrey is playing, he can't be the whole offense. And really, aside from Curtis Samuel, who's playing well, at wide receiver, it's DJ Moore. He's been inconsistent. Devin Funchess just caught his first touchdown since, I think, week 7. The big thing here is, while the Panthers defense, they have been terrible in the second half of the year, they're not doing their part. But Cam Newton, 7 interceptions in his past 4 games. They're all Panthers losses. So between the secondary for the Panthers and Cam Newton, this is done. They're done. They fired a bunch of assistants this morning. I think Ron Rivera could be on his way out.
He needs to be. And when you look at the rest of the Panthers' schedule, they got to play the Saints twice, which maybe at the end of the season, maybe the Saints won't need it, but the Saints probably will, just for home field advantage. So you get 2 games there. You go to Cleveland. You host Atlanta. And Cleveland and Atlanta are teams that aren't very good, but there's enough talent there that if you don't go in ready to play, you could lose the game. So, Steve, I think Cam Newton's done.
Well, sadly, I think Ron Rivera's done because of Cam Newton. I mean, that's what's going to end up happening, as Anthony said. Rivera will lose his job at the end of the season, but it's more based on the performance of Cam Newton and the unwillingness of Cam Newton to learn how to play quarterback and to not want to be an egotistical, maniacal all-star. I can do it all football player for the Carolina Panthers. So as long as they buy into Cam's story, the Panthers aren't going to be very good. He's not a winning quarterback in the NFL. And Rivera will pay the price for it at the end of the year, most likely.
All right, next up, the Miami Dolphins kept their AFC wildcard hopes alive. And
I hope Lucas Reese is listening right now too.
Well, I know, because he gave me a lot of trouble when the Panthers beat the Bengals.
Yeah, I know.
And now they both
suck.
All right, the Miami Dolphins,
along with the Colts,
beat the Buffalo Bills 21-17 to run the record to 6-6. Ryan Tannehill 16 for 24, 137 yards and 3 touchdowns, which are weird stats, Steve. You usually don't see that, 3 touchdowns and 137 yards.
I can't really explain that one. Again, I didn't get to see a lot of that game. But, it's throwing touchdown passes inside the red zone. That's all you need to do. So,
and
they just got outplayed.
So my question is this, Anthony. Is Josh Allen a franchise quarterback? 18 for 33, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Not great numbers, not terrible numbers. Ran the ball 9 times for 135 yards. Is Josh Allen the answer in Buffalo?
I like Josh Allen a lot. The biggest thing that he's underrated for is his ability to run the football. He's known for his big arm, but he's won 2 games already this season for the Bills. 2 out of the 8 games he's played with his legs, and he almost pulled this game out yesterday in Miami. So I like Josh Allen a lot. I like the coaching a lot in Buffalo with Sean McDermott. I think the team plays for him. If they can just shed LaShawn McCoy and Kelvin Benjamin and bring in a legit wide receiver 1 and a younger running back, I think this Bills team could really make a run in the next couple of years. I think they did a great job with drafting Josh Allen.
All right, next up, the Denver Broncos stay in the AFC playoff chase with a 24-10 win over the hapless Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals quarterback Jeff Driscoll in his first start, 25 for 38, 236 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. The thing that blows my mind about the Bengals is the fact that they have Joe Mixon. He averages 7 yards a carry, and with a backup quarterback, Anthony, he carries the ball 12 times, and he averaged 7 yards per carry. Wouldn't a well-coached team maybe give the ball to Joe Mixon like maybe twice as many times and take the heat off off the rookie quarterback?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they mishandled Joe Mixon, and
they do every game too.
This whole Bengals season now, you don't have Dalton. Now A.J. Green looks like he aggravated a toe injury, similar to how he injured it back in 2014 and earlier in the year. I think they're done. I think Tyler Boyd might even be banged up at this point.
I think that, I think I heard the other day that the water boy was down too. So it's just all falling apart. The only person healthy is Marvin Lewis, and he just sits there, claps his hands, and shakes his head. The Denver Broncos, Steve, Case Keenum didn't look good. He was 12 for 21, 151 yards and a touchdown. But I'll tell you who does look good. Phillip Lindsay, undrafted, free agent, rookie this year, comes in 19 carries, 157 yards. And this Denver team, just because of their schedule coming up, I think has a chance to make it run at the playoffs. Now, I don't think they're a playoff team. Same thing I said with the Colts. But the schedule is easy enough that I could see them sneaking in right now.
Yeah, you've been harping on this for a while, and we've kind of mildly rebuked you a little bit, but it's coming in. Once again, you're proving the genius that you are. I think the Broncos have as good a shot as anybody to be in the playoffs, whether they deserve to be or not. Right now, they're playing good football. Why not put them in there?
Well, if you win enough games, you deserve it. And when you look at the rest of their schedule, they're at the 49ers next week, which is kind of a bye week.
That's a win.
They host the Browns, which will be a win probably. They go to Oakland, and then they host the Chargers. So if the Chargers have already clinched, and even if they haven't clinched, even if they haven't clinched, remember the Broncos went to L.A. and beat the Chargers 23-22, I think 3 weeks ago. So it's not beyond comprehension that they couldn't get this done against the Chargers again.
Yeah, no, they of all the 6-6 teams, they probably have the easiest pathway into the playoffs of all the 6-6 teams out there. But there's some streaking teams. Seattle's in the NFC, so that's the wrong division. There's some streaking teams coming up ahead of them. There's still a game ahead of them. They're going to have some things happen to them, but they're playing well enough to get into the playoffs. Whether they're a playoff team or not, who knows? They're getting better every week, for sure.
All right, now we go to John Harbaugh. The Baltimore Ravens are now 7-5, 26-16 win at Atlanta. And I know, Anthony, we talked off air about whether his job could be in jeopardy. This is why his job shouldn't be in jeopardy. Number one, he's won 7 games. Number two, his starting quarterback is Lamar Jackson, 12 for 21 for just over 100 yards. His running backs are Gus Edwards, who I don't even think I've ever heard of, Kenneth Dixon. I think that John Harbaugh, actually, if he makes the playoffs, beyond just keeping his job, has to be one of the candidates for the Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to tout him as Coach of the Year. If he makes the playoffs, he's going to have to make a little bit of a deeper run for me to say that. But, yeah, I agree.
How's he going to make a deeper run to be Coach of the Year? The voting is over at the end of the season.
Oh, I thought it went to the playoffs. Okay.
No. That's how Marvin Lewis has won it twice.
I think he's doing a really good job, John Harbaugh.
Yeah, because Marvin Lewis would have never been NFL Coach of the Year in 2009 if they were looking at the playoffs or at any other time that he's won Coach of the Year. Because I think he's won it at least once, maybe twice. So,
I was going to say, we almost saw Lamar Jackson. We did see him leave the game briefly to go into the concussion tent. I think that's going to be the issue moving forward, is the fact that he struggles passing the ball, and then he's running like a running back so many times a game. Eventually, he's going to get banged up. I know Michael Vick came out and tried to warn him a little bit. But this is going to be a problem if Lamar Jackson can't throw, and he's getting pretty good, pretty easy matchups to throw against, and he's just not doing it.
Yeah, and the teams they've played so far, the Falcons, Raiders, and Bengals, are not defensive juggernauts. And, they may be better off if he's not playing, and all of a sudden you've got RG3 playing, because I think RG3 is a pretty good passer. So, I think he's much better than Lamar Jackson.
Do you think they can win if they went back and forth with Joe Flacco?
I think they can win if Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback. I don't think they can win if Lamar Jackson is. You could beat some bad teams, but you're not going to make a significant run with a guy that's not a threat to throw the ball. I mean, because he's going to get broken half. I mean, what do you think Bill Belichick's defense does to a guy that can't throw the ball? Or the Kansas City Chiefs defense sucks either way. You might be safe there. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, any team that is a good team is going to be able to shut this down. He may have a game. I mean, I don't know if he's thrown for barely over 300 yards in 3 games. I just don't see how Lamar Jackson gets this done. They need Joe Flacco. And I don't have a problem with Lamar Jackson coming in for a play here or there, but it can't be a question of who the quarterback is there. The quarterback there has to be Joe Flacco, because I don't care what anybody says about Lamar Jackson. He'll never be Joe Flacco. Lamar Jackson's never going to have a Super Bowl ring because he led his team to a Super Bowl championship. It will never happen.
Is Quinn in jeopardy?
Oh, I think he has to be now. They got to win a game pretty soon, because if you finish 4-12 with the amount of talent, I know they had injuries. Every team's have injuries. I mean, the Bengals have a bunch of injuries. It shouldn't save Marvin Lewis. You got to coach what you got. And to me right now, the Falcons don't look like they're putting forth a whole lot of effort. If you look at them, though, the rest of their schedule, they're at Tampa Bay, they're at Carolina, they host the Cardinals. Let's see. Yeah. So they go to Green Bay, which you never know what you're getting there. If he could win 2 or 3 games out of those 4, I think he's safe. If he loses all 4, I think he could have problems then.
No, I think he's in jeopardy.
Yeah, I think he is too, because I think they're in jeopardy of losing all 4 possibly.
Right.
Next
it's the
up,
second year in a row for this team to fail.
yeah, and then of course
it's 2 now, not just 1 bad year. Now it's 2 bad years.
Well, it's 2 bad
From the
years,
Super Bowl team
and then blowing a 28-3 lead damn near at the start of the 4th quarter in the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl, right? Yeah. So really, you're talking about 3 seasons of misery.
Well,
for the
last
Falcons.
year they made the playoffs. They won a playoff game. So I mean, I think unless if he loses the last 4, he could possibly be gone. Let's face it, it's the NFL. Who knows? If the owner's in a bad mood, that's it. Next up, the Detroit Lions gave the LA Rams all they could handle, but the Rams prevailed 30-16. My question is this, all right, because we know the Rams are one of the best teams. Should Aaron Donald be considered for the NFL MVP, Anthony?
Yeah, I think he should be in the conversation. Again, it's a quarterback-dominated league, but Aaron Donald, since he got his contract, he's been earning it and probably is the most valuable player on that Rams defense.
Steve?
Yeah, as much as like Andrew Luck should. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to touch Drew Brees this year, nor maybe should they not. But I think just like Luck, look what the Colts did yesterday. Luck had a bad game. And, I mean, if you talk about most valuable player, Luck goes down or doesn't play well. Colts fail, can't even put a point on the board. You know, Donald's kind of in that same mold there. He's a one player that definitely they live and breathe their defense around him, but I don't think that either one of those guys are anywhere near the caliber of season that Drew Brees is having.
Well, see, I think this.
Conversation, sure.
I think
much like Andrew Luck's in the conversation.
No, if you're going with the most valuable player in the NFL right now, it's Aaron Donald. I mean, his season has been more impressive than Drew Brees's.
Okay.
This is the thing. When you look at his stats, in the 6 games where the Rams have played that have been decided by 7 or fewer points, Donald has 11 sacks. In the 6 games that have been decided by double digits, he has 6. It's usually only quarterbacks that we talk about being clutch. I think Donald's as clutch as you can get. His 2 forced fumbles 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs were the difference in that game. Both led to Rams touchdowns, and he was definitely clutch yesterday. I mean, yesterday the Rams are up 3 points with 8 minutes left in the game. The Lions got the ball. They're driving to score and to win the game. And Donald, makes a great move, comes up with a strip sack of Matthew Stafford, sets the Rams up with the ball at Detroit's 24-yard line. 3 plays later, the Rams score a touchdown to put the game away. So I know this. Overall, I think it would be nearly impossible for Donald to be having a better season. He's taken it to a whole new level this year, maybe the greatest season a defensive lineman has ever had. And he is the only consistent pass rusher for the Rams this season. And there's no way the Rams would be 11-1 without him, because that defense without him would be a joke. I think he is the runaway winner for the Defensive Player of the Year award. But I think he absolutely belongs in this conversation, and I would put him in the top 2. I think it's him and Drew Brees. And I don't know that I've ever seen a defensive lineman have a better season than what Aaron Donald has had so far. So
can't argue with you. I mean, I wouldn't fight you on that one.
I know, because
when was the last time a defensive player won the MVP?
A defensive
was
player.
J.J. Watt?
Defensive players won the MVP a couple times. Did Jim Marshall win it back in the day?
Yeah, one of the guys at Purple People years won it. Was it Marshall or Eller or I don't know, one of the Page?
I think
was it Page?
It might have been Page. It
was Page. I think it was Alan Page. Yeah, one of those guys off there got it. And then Lawrence Taylor won it one year.
Well, yeah, Lawrence Taylor could have won it every year.
Right. But did J.J. Watt never win Player of the Year?
No, I don't think he did.
He won Defensive Player.
Okay, I don't. Yeah, I don't know, but I think it was Alan Page.
Yeah, Page won it in 1971, and LT won it the Super Bowl 1 year in 1986. So yeah, it's only been done twice. And I think in the last 20 years, there's only been 3 or 4 people that weren't quarterbacks to win it, and those guys were running backs.
I think this: if Drew Brees wasn't having the year he was having, he would be a legitimate contender for the position.
Well,
I just think sadly the favoritism goes toward the quarterback, and because Drew Brees is having such an incredible year, in any other given year, I think you're right. He's probably number 2 in the balloting, or should be. But I just think because Breeze is just blowing it out. If Breeze is having a mediocre year or not quite as good a year as he's having, I'd give you hope, but I don't have any hope because Breeze is just killing it.
I don't have any hope just because.
It's not to say he's a more valuable player.
They're just going to give it to Breeze. None of the other shit matters.
They're going to give it to Breeze. Exactly. You're exactly right. They're going to give it to Breeze. Yeah, whether he deserves it or not, and Aaron Donald may be the guy that does deserve it, but don't think he's going to overcome the shtick of giving it to a quarterback and being the poster child for the NFL. He's a family man, a good man. So.
Next up,
he's the anti-Kareem Hunt.
My question is this: you bring up Kareem Hunt there. The Kansas City Chiefs, 40-33 over the Oakland Raiders at Oakland. Patrick Mahomes was normal Patrick Mahomes, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. My question is this, though. They had a hard time with the Raiders. The defense was bad, Steve. Spencer Ware runs the ball 14 for 47 yards. And we started off with Kareem Hunt, but we didn't talk about what this could do to the Chiefs. I think that the loss of Kareem Hunt means the Chiefs' Super Bowl chances went from probably 50% down to about 10%.
Which is probably why they didn't do anything with him until the video surfaced.
Yeah.
Sadly. But that's probably, we can keep this under wraps and manage it until the end of the season, but they couldn't do it because of video service. And sadly, that's how I think the NFL thinks. You disagree with me?
No.
No. So I think they're screwed.
Now, the other thing is this, and Anthony, I'll play it back to you here. Same question to you with this premise, which is their next 4 games. They got 3 tough games. They host the Ravens, who are batting for playoffs. They host the Chargers, who are playing as well as anybody in the AFC right now. They go to Seattle, and then they finish at home against Oakland. How much trouble do you think they're in any danger of losing out on a home playoff game?
I think it could happen, especially with, like you said, or like we said earlier, with the Texans playing so well. You have the Chargers playing really good, and now the Chiefs, they lose a big component of their offense. I think we are going to see just how big of a move losing Kareem Hunt was. And Spencer Ware, on my end, and coming from the fantasy football world, a lot of guys really thought it was going to be a seamless transition because Spencer Ware put up a big production years ago. But one of the key things that Spencer Ware is missing is the fact that he is not as good as Kareem Hunt in the passing game, which is why they had to draft a Kareem Hunt, because Spencer Ware didn't give everything to you like that. And that's the part of the game that the Chiefs are going to be missing. They don't have that reliable pass-catching back like Kareem Hunt or an Alvin Kamara. Or Melvin Gordon, the list goes on, who's going to break that big play. So if you take that big play ability away, all of a sudden we are seeing Pat Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, their rapport is a little bit off. What about how Spencer Ware is in pass protection? It seemed like Pat Mahomes didn't have a ton of time, and this was against an Oakland Raiders front. Imagine what the Baltimore Ravens, who just held Matt Ryan to under 200 yards passing, is going to do. I think they are in trouble. And I think Baltimore, this is going to be a big test.
Yeah, it's a big test for both. And if Baltimore gets the win there, I think it tells us a couple things. Number one, I think Baltimore could very possibly win the AFC North. But on top of that, Kansas City could end up losing out to the Chargers, because if the Chargers win out, that includes a win over Kansas City. That division's back in play. All right, next up, we got another AFC wildcard contender that goes to 6-6. It's the Tennessee Titans, after being horrible for the first three quarters, down 22-13 after 3, rally for 13 points to win 26-22 over the New York Giants yesterday.
Yes.
Steve, go ahead.
Well, they won over the Jets, not the Giants.
Well, whatever.
But that's okay.
They both suck.
That's a football. Yeah, I know.
Hey, you know what? If you're listening to this show and you don't know the difference between who the Titans beat, I'm sorry. I just forget things sometimes.
We have a little bit of breaking news right now on the Kansas City Chiefs. They are signing former running back Charcandrick West.
Well, that'll make all the difference in the world.
It shows they are worried about their running backs.
Yeah, and also, my memory is just not that good, Steve Risky. All right. So
I know.
what's...
I was going to bring that up, but I said I wouldn't, so no big deal.
Yeah, Anthony, I posted a show called Game Day IQ today on thegrillingtruth.net, and I put it up, and then the guy that hosts the show
Of which
sent
I
me a
did.
message.
Did you listen to the show, Mike? Mike, did I do a stellar job on that show?
Sure you did, Steve. I haven't listened to
Thank
it. I
you.
don't have time to listen to podcasts because I'm doing them.
You post stuff you don't listen to?
No, I listen to everything.
That's not very good
every
editorial
second.
content.
I know, it's not. But I pay attention, then if all of a sudden I get an email telling me, hey, this guy on this Dolphin show sucks ass, then I'll listen to it just to see if the guy sucks or not. And that's not a shot in Dolphin Talk Daily.
Oh, I got an
because I've
email
never
from one
had
of your
a
buddies
message
ripping on me for
who's
saying
my
you never
buddy?
played
Who is my
sports
buddy?
beyond high school.
Who is my buddy?
Jake?
Jake what?
Jake, let me see if I put this away for you to listen to you later. He came to your defense in a hard way.
I just want to know the name. I just want, since you said it's one of my buddies, I just want to know what his name is.
Well, hang on. I'm pulling it up right now. Let me see if I have it here still. Here. Jake 73.
What's his name? Does he give a name?
Okay,
Okay, so an 80-year-old guy that's known me. I don't think that I'm even friends with anybody that's 80 years old. It may be an 80-year-old guy who knows who I am, but it's
I
not
listen to you on Surviving Advancing all the time.
I don't. Nobody wants to hear a letter from somebody right now.
I heard you attack Goody. He called you Goody.
Everybody
I heard you
attack
attack Goody, and he had not played sports at a high level.
Are you going to listen
I
to me?
saw him play basketball, football, and even
Anthony,
tennis at South Dearborn.
Do you think that I need to mute him? Do you think that Risley's getting out of control? I think Risley's getting out of control.
Jake Clausen.
Jake what?
Jake Clausen.
Actually, if Jake's listening, I'm sorry, but I really have no clue who Jake Clausen is.
He defended you vehemently.
Well, I mean, he should.
I apologize.
You know what? Everybody in the world will defend me vehemently against you. So, what's your take on the Titans, Steve?
I put a lot of stock into this win. They beat the Hapless Jets 22-6-22, and the game was tossed up all the way through. I don't think Tennessee's as big a contender as the Colts are because they don't have Andrew Luck. So at 6-6, I think they're at least as done as the Colts, probably more. Enough said. Move on.
I don't know because when I look at the schedule, they host the Jaguars, who are terrible.
They're really bad.
But they go to the Giants. They host the Redskins. They host the Colts. No. I think they could go 3-1 and be 9-7, Anthony.
Yeah, I could see that a little. I mean, it's the Titans. They win ugly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see it happening, but they're the ugliest 6-7 win football team out there.
But they always are. Last year they won a playoff game being the ugliest team out there. So, all right, next up, Anthony Cervino picked the Minnesota Vikings to beat the New England Patriots, and he was wrong. He was real wrong. The New England Patriots, 24, the Minnesota Vikings, 10. Kirk Cousins, 32 for 44 with a touchdown. Doesn't sound bad until you throw in the final number of 2 interceptions. My question is this. Why is Dalvin Cook running the ball just 9 times for 84 yards against the Patriots? Why are they not trying to run the ball more? Because I think the Patriots' defensive front is not great, and I think you can control the clock and keep Brady out the field by running the ball. I don't understand what the Vikings' game plan was here, Anthony.
No, and it seems like the Vikings are shying away from the run a little bit. And there's a few issues I have here with the Minnesota Vikings. I feel like their defense played well enough to keep them in the game. Kirk Cousins isn't doing his part, and I don't want to really blame Stephon Diggs. His knee swelled up overnight. He was dealing with a knee issue all week. He wasn't 100%, but he had a few opportunities. Adam Thielen dropped a few balls. This Vikings team, they were winning, and Kirk Cousins was playing better when Latavius Murray was controlling the tempo of the game.
Yeah, and I don't understand why Dalvin Cook doesn't get a chance to.
I think this needs to be a 2 running back system. If you think back to how Minnesota, they were successful last year when Latavius Murray was running in between the tackles, and Jerick McKinnon, who has a similar skill set to Dalvin Cook, was dominating in the passing game. I think you need to give more touches to Latavius Murray. who was
Yeah.
playing really well. He was playing really well when Dalvin Cook was out.
Huh. So, what was your take, Anthony, on the Bill Belichick, Adam Thielen little controversy?
I don't. I actually didn't see that. I don't remember that.
You haven't seen it? It's all over the internet because Bill
No,
Belichick
no.
cussed at him.
Really?
Yeah. Because I guess Thielen is on the sideline and he's running his mouth at the Patriots, and Belichick told him to shut the F up and get back on his side.
Jeez.
I like that.
But so right now the Vikings are out right now, right? I mean, Seahawks took their place,
Yeah, they're 6-5-1.
so they're out. They're
As
not
of
coming
right
back
now. Well, they could.
in. They're not coming back in.
You don't have to be so negative.
I don't think Baltimore's going to lose, and I don't think Seattle's going to lose.
I don't see what
I think
Baltimore. What would Baltimore have to do with the Vikings?
Oh,
making
I'm
the
sorry,
playoffs?
Baltimore. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Jeez. I'll tell you. If I didn't pay you
you
so
know,
much
like-
and guarantee it up front, I'd have got rid of you years ago.
Cowboys. I meant to say Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are in, and I think the Seahawks are in as wild cards.
Well, I think this. I think next Monday night you've got a huge game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks at Seattle. And I think that Minnesota and Seattle seasons both could come down to this game. After that, Minnesota Minnesota after that host Miami. They go to Detroit. They host the Bears. Those are a couple. Well, you got one tough game with the Bears, and then with the Dolphins and Lions, you never know what you're going to get. So if they beat the Seahawks, I think that they can get in. But that Seahawk game is huge now, Anthony.
Yeah, it really is. The Seahawks, they've been playing well down the stretch now. Russell Wilson looks like, the Russell Wilson we're used to seeing every year. His wide receivers are playing real well, too. They're running the ball with Chris Carson, and now Rashad Penny, the upside rookie, is starting to come on a little bit. So I think the Seattle Seahawks team can sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that, once again, outside of Aaron Donald and Drew Brees, I think Russell Wilson is your next MVP candidate. Yesterday, 11 for 17.
That was my next question for you.
Yeah, 11 for 17, 185, 4 touchdowns. And they've got Carson and Penny, and a lot of people didn't understand why they drafted Penny I think he was out of San Diego State, wasn't he, Anthony? If I remember right.
Penny? I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and they picked him in the first round, and everybody's like, why didn't you take an O-lineman? I was like, why don't you take an O-lineman? But with those two running backs and with Russell Wilson throwing the ball, Jaron Brown had a big game yesterday. You still got Tyler Lockett, Doug Baldwin. He doesn't have great receivers. But unlike Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson can throw a guy open, and he can throw in real small windows. Russell Wilson's a special football player, and as long as he's on that team, and see, this is the thing. If you remember, 5 or 6 weeks ago, I made the comment on here with you guys that I would take Russell Wilson over Aaron Rodgers in a heartbeat, and you both said I was nuts.
I don't think I said you were nuts.
Yeah, you did.
You said over Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
I still want Aaron Rodgers.
No, you're crazy. Yeah,
I don't.
I want the guy that wins.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. I always wanted Russell Wilson.
He'll get a new coach. He'll get new players. He'll be fine next year.
Yeah, but he still will never be Russell Wilson. And remember, Russell Wilson's under 30 and won as many Super Bowls.
Packers are not going to be able to rebuild in 1 year. And he's 35.
Corey,
Best chance for Aaron Rodgers.
Corey, who your coach is?
Yeah, I guess.
Next up.
Lombardi's dead.
Okay.
That's about all we'll say the Packers next year.
Now, last night, I'm watching the Chargers and the Steelers, and it's 23-7 Pittsburgh. I had my cousin called because his son played in the Kentucky State High School Football Championship yesterday, and he's all upset because they lost. And I talked to him for a while, and then I come in, and remember, it was 23-7. I come back in. There's 5 minutes left in the game, and it's 30-23 Chargers. And this Charger team with Phillip Rivers and with the defense they have now, this team, and I know that I picked them to go to the Super Bowl and play the Saints at the start of the year, but right now I'm starting to actually believe what I said. I mean, Keenan Allen, 14 receptions for 148 yards. And the thing about Keenan Allen is, Anthony, he does this all the time. And when people talk about the 5 or 10 best receivers in football, you very rarely hear his name.
No, and the stigma with Keenan Allen is that Keenan Allen is injury prone because the first few seasons he's been in the NFL, he was banged up a lot. In the past 2 years, Keenan Allen has been one of the better wide receivers in the NFL, and he is very underrated. So is Phillip Rivers, and so is the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, and now the Chargers are 9-3, and they can get back in this still because they play the Chiefs again. They get a bye week this week because they'll play the Cincinnati Bengals. And then when I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, now you got questions about James Conner. I mean, James Conner goes down, you got Jalen Samuels running the ball. And if that is the case, I think the Steelers are done. And I think the Ravens may end up winning this division. They're only a half game back now, Anthony.
Yeah, the Ravens were my preseason pick to win the AFC North, and take Le'Veon Bell out of the equation, and you're continuing to see locker room issues with the Steelers, which to me reflects on Mike Tomlin. I'm not the biggest Mike Tomlin guy out there.
Yeah,
but this is, it was Ben Roethlisberger last week on his weekly radio station was rolling his teammates as usual on schedule.
Yeah. Because
this is a very volatile situation, and it doesn't surprise me.
Big Ben is not the greatest guy in the world. Now, the problem here is the Ravens still have to go to Kansas City. They go play the Chargers. They host the Browns and Buccaneers, which should be 2 wins to get them to 9. But I think to win the division, they're probably going to have to split the Chiefs and Chargers. They're going to have to win one of those 2 road games, Steve.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. And I was looking at the Steelers' schedule. They got to go through the Patriots and Saints still, too. They've got the Bengals and Raiders, which should be easy wins. But, you're looking at 2-2 for them, realistically, at this point in time, because I don't see the Patriots laying down. And,
but see, that's the problem.
Saints,
that's why they've got to win one of those 2 road games, because without a win in one of those 2 road games, they're going to fall a half game behind.
Yeah.
The Ravens, what is being overlooked here is they do get 2 tough matchups with the Chargers and the Chiefs, right? But both teams are going to be without their starting running back.
Yeah.
Because Melvin Gordon, there's no guarantee he's going to be on the field for that game.
Hey, but right now, is Lamar Jackson playing? If
yes.
Lamar Jackson's the starter, then I think that outweighs the other teams missing their running backs. If Joe Flacco is playing, if Flacco was to play this week and be the starting quarterback, I would pick them to beat the Chiefs. But with Lamar Jackson, I'm just not going to do it because I don't trust that he can do it.
When Joe Flacco was healthy, and he was almost active this week, once he's good to go, I think if Lamar Jackson is struggling, they'll pull him at halftime.
Well, if he's healthy and you're not starting him, you're an idiot. I mean, it's not like he's played well. He's run around. He's been an extra running back in the backfield. They've thrown for an average of about 120 yards a game with him, so I don't get that. But tonight, I know Anthony will be paying very close attention as the Philadelphia Eagles battle the Washington Redskins. The winner still has a chance to make the playoffs. This is a huge game for the Redskins, Anthony. They win this game, you guys are still tied for first, correct?
Yeah, I believe so. But, on the other hand, I'd rather the Eagles be dead and buried now because the Redskins still have Colt McCoy and a whole bunch of injuries.
Yeah, and Steve, when you look at this game, what do you think is the big key? Because Colt McCoy, I don't think is ever going to get this done at a huge level, but he's not a bad quarterback. So do you agree with Anthony? If you're a Cowboy fan, are you rather the Redskins win and stay tied for first with you, or would you rather the Eagles win?
I'd rather battle out with the Redskins than the Eagles. But I'm with Anthony. I'd rather just bury the Eagles right now. If I'm the Cowboys, just get them out of the picture because that's a dangerous football team.
Because
they still have the talent and the coaching. Huh?
I was going to say, if the Eagles win, all of a sudden this game next week with the Eagles, Cowboys in Dallas means something, and it's still the Cowboys. They can still choke. Yeah. They can still choke. I don't trust them.
Yeah, and the thing is,
you don't trust the Cowboys?
No, absolutely not.
You can't trust them. That'd be like trusting the Bengals once they get to the playoffs, Steve.
I take teams like, Eagles, and if you can eliminate them right now, just get them out of the picture. It's kind of like watching Survivor. You know, the vote on Survivor, you take the strong player out early and get him out of the picture.
Well, the thing about the Eagles is this, though, and I think
don't let them linger.
If I'm a Redskin fan, I probably want the Redskins, or if I'm a Cowboy fan, I want the Redskins to lose tonight. And the reason is this. Even if you lose to the Cowboys next week, you're tied for first. They've got to go to L.A. and play the Rams. Then they play Houston. So I don't think the way they're playing, they win either.
So you want to take the cushion on the game. So you want the Redskins to lose.
Yeah, I'd rather be up in game then. I mean, because I don't think the Redskins. Yeah. That's a tough schedule, Anthony. When you look at that, they've got to go to L.A. They got to play Houston. Those right now are two of the top 4 or 5 teams in the NFL.
That's a good point.
Who, you're talking about the Eagles, right? Yeah. I agree. Even if they do beat Dallas next week, I think they can lose the next 2 games. And then they close out with Philly in Week 17, which could mean something.
Yeah, but remember this. The Redskins the rest of the way, if they win tonight, the Redskins the rest of the way play the Giants at home. They go to Jacksonville, they go to Tennessee, and they host the Eagles. And I think that's a much easier schedule than what the Eagles face.
It is, but I just don't put any faith in Colt McCoy.
All right, so basically your problem is this. You're a Cowboys fan, which over the last 20 years has become very similar to being a Bengals fan. So you kind of realize that since something really great happened, something really bad's about to happen.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Do you know how many games I've traveled to? And living in New Jersey, I'm a couple hours away from Washington, Philly. I mean, I've driven to a lot, and I've been let down over and over again. I can't. I can't trust them. I don't trust them.
Trust me, I know what you mean. So, yeah, I feel your pain there. So, Redskins, Eagles tonight, though. Who do you got, Steve?
Where's the game at?
Philadelphia, I believe.
Philadelphia? I got the Eagles.
All right. Anthony?
Yeah, I'm going to go Philly here, too.
Yeah, I'm going to go Philly also. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. We got tomorrow, we'll be talking college basketball and Survive Advance with Brian Ruff from Bracket Busters. One of the largest, NCAA predictions. We talk a little IU basketball, a little Big Ten basketball, SEC, Big 12, pretty much everything. So make sure you check us out tomorrow at noon with that. I want to thank Anthony for coming on again today. Remember, you can follow us at Grueling Truth, and you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you find the Grueling Truth. So for Steve Risley, Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to the Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.